But we got to keep an eye on those pesky, pesky billionaires because who was that one billionaire who made out like a bandit when the two towers came down because he had taken out a massive insurance policy on them right beforehand? Oh, that's right. Larry Silverstein. You remember him, huh? Well, guess what? He just bought a giant U.S. bank skyscraper in downtown LA right after all the warnings of a major potential attack coming to LA. And here's the building he bought. So for all of you living in California and LA, if you work here, I might look for a new career field for a little while. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today we're talking about false flag season. Pretty much the hottest topic in media over the last couple of days. Everywhere you look, people are talking about an incoming false flag. And it does make sense. I mean, we are kind of in an unprecedented moment that is probably the most likely scenario for us to have a massive, major false flag attack on the continental United States since 25 years ago. And we're going to talk about the reasons for that and why. We're also going to show you all the way the government is signaling that something may be coming. And, you know, looking at what rich people are doing is always a good idea because when the FBI says there's a giant attack coming to LA and all of the billionaires in LA are leaving the area, yeah, we should pay attention to that. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. Follow us on Patreon, and let's get this thing cracking. All right, so first things first, understand before we start showing you all this stuff is just why this is false flag season. The reality is this. The United States and our greatest ally are not currently winning this war, and the main reason for that is there is no end state. Right? There is no winning. That's part of the problem here is that if you don't have any end goal objective, what does winning even mean? It doesn't mean anything. And as you see here, U.S. intel shows Iran's leadership is still intact and not at risk of collapse despite Trump and Netanyahu's costly military campaign. So what that means is, yes, an air campaign, a bombing campaign, it's not doing anything other than killing civilians. And our own generals came out in a hearing yesterday and even said themselves, air campaigns don't facilitate regime change. They just increase the resolve of the populace. So what that means is the bombing campaign's not going to do anything at the end of the day. So what do you then need if you need to facilitate regime change? Well, if we look at history in the United States, it's always been some type of major attack on the home front. Let's do a little quick history lesson so we understand that it has always been this way in every war that the United States gets itself into. World War I, why did we finally get into that war? Because German U-boats were sinking American trade vessels. World War II, how did the United States finally get into that one? Pearl Harbor. And what do we know historically about Pearl Harbor? The government most likely knew about it and let it happen. Vietnam. Well, do we remember how we got into that one? Oh, that's right. The Gulf of Tonkin, where the United States claimed that Vietnam had been attacking U.S. destroyer ships, which turned out not to be true. Oh, what was that big one about 25 years ago? Well, we all know that one, don't we? And so my point here is whether these are actual organic attacks or whether they're potential false flags or soft false flags, which we should probably talk about that real quick so you understand that, is a soft false flag is something like Pearl Harbor, where the United States government may have known it's coming and just decides to not do anything because they want to get drug into the conflict. Kind of just like those two towers in New York, right? And so the point being is all of those things were needed for an official public support, the patriotism drum up to launch ground campaigns and invasions. Because there's no way the Trump administration can just go for it out of nowhere. They need some type of massive event to increase public opinion on this, which is abysmal currently, as we know that it is the least popular war through polling across all polling in American history. Now that we know that, what are we being told by our own government, right? The FBI is warning police departments in California that Iran could potentially launch an unmanned drone swarm attack on the West Coast. Ooh. And this is being signaled everywhere in the government, especially by the neocons. Here's Ted Cruz saying that the United States should prepare for T attacks from Iranian sleeper cells located in the country. Donald Trump himself says he's been briefed on Iranian sleeper cells in the United States, claims authorities know where most of them are. We're going to talk about that in a second.
They try to hit us back. Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. So Diaper Dawn here says that not only are there a bunch of Iranian sleeper cells, we actually know who they are and exactly where they are, and we're watching them. Hey, buddy, you remember ICE? Maybe instead of spending all their time trying to take down grandmas and food trucks, we could have been, I don't know, for the last 12 months, going after all the Iranian sleeper cells that you knew about and know exactly where they are. So, okay, great, thanks. But again, it's all signaling, and you're seeing the media jump in on it too.
The FBI warning of possible Iranian drone attacks on our homeland. A new alert reviewed by ABC News revealing Iran's aspirations to conduct a surprise attack specifically against unspecified targets in California.
This has got to be one of the dumbest psyops of all time.
So yes, this is the big thing they're signaling, the FBI, Trump, the media, that there's going to be Iranian drone strikes on California, and they're even, it's guys, it's the worst developed psyop I've ever seen. They're even signaling this. And no way, there was 4 military drones that just happened to get stolen from Fort Campbell right after all of this push started? Huh. And here's the 2 suspects who stole those drones, but don't worry, the FBI has said they're no threat to the public. Okay. Now, before we talk about what the threat to California actually is, let's talk about why this is the dumbest psyop anybody has ever tried to put forward. This false flag will be the dumbest thing anybody's ever seen. Here's why. Iran is currently completely emboldened at the moment with no ground invasion. They are 100% able to hold their own right now. Why would they want to attack the U.S. home front and guarantee that one of 2 things happen? Donald Trump launches a massive ground campaign to come invade the country, or we just drop some nukes on him. Why would they do that to themselves? Does that strategically actually make any sense? Why would you want to try to force that upon yourself if you're Iran? What Iran is actually doing is cratering the Gulf states around them to force them to capitulate and break ties with the United States, which is what's actually happening. Now, could Iran pull off this giant drone strike on California? I'm supposed to believe that Iran is going to launch drones from across the world and hit the West Coast. Now, at first, that may sound like the silliest thing ever, but there is one scenario where this actually is possible. And rather than me do a whole section on it, I'm actually just going to divert you to the best video on the internet by far on this specific topic. And that is our buddy Jack from Black Scout Survival did a whole video on that. I'll put it in the description. You can go watch it, explaining how, yes, Iran actually could pull off some type of drone swarm attack on the United States using shipping containers that could potentially be on big shipping vessels that are sitting outside the port of LA. So it is possible. Is it likely? No, because of course, strategically, it doesn't make any sense for Iran. So while you may see things like homegrown T-word attacks and individuals, you know, these mass shootings and things that we're seeing as potential low-level ones, you're talking about with a drone attack, this is a state actor, state-sponsored attack. And if that actually happens, the odds that it's actually Iran that did it is abysmally low. But we got to keep an eye on those pesky billionaires, because who was that one billionaire who made out like a bandit when the 2 towers came down because he had taken out a massive insurance policy on them right beforehand? Oh, that's right. Larry Silverstein, you remember him, huh? Well, guess what? He just bought a giant U.S. bank skyscraper in downtown L.A. right after all the warnings of a major potential attack coming to L.A. And here's the building he bought. So for all of you living in California and LA, if you work here, I might look for a new career field for a little while. But it's not just him. Who else has fled California recently? It looks like Peter Thiel, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Larry Ellison, David Sachs, Mark Zuckerberg, and Carl Icahn, all very, very closely tied to this administration. I mean, it's just all big coincidences, I'm sure. I hope, at least. Then we also got to talk about these lower, more like homegrown T-word attacks that we're seeing around, like on the synagogues and on campuses and things like that recently. Here's the big problem with the environment that we are in, is that it's not an false flag only environment. And what I mean by that is a friendly reminder that we decided to kill the Ayatollah. And most people around the country don't really understand the fact that how significant this is that he's not the leader of Iran. He's the leader of Shia Muslims, right? Of Shia Islam. That's who he's the leader of. He's essentially the Shia Pope. And so, yeah, when you decide to take someone like that out, it's going to enrage the entire Muslim world. And think about if the Catholic Pope would have been bombed and killed by Iran, the response that we would have had. Add that to things like the United States 185 little schoolgirls with Tomahawk missiles. Yeah, we are in a situation where, yes, you could very well see sleeper cell type attacks come to the home front because we pissed off the entire world. Then you add that to the fact that the government and other state entities and state actors also know that this is the environment and that they can leverage and take advantage of that. Because if the public thinks that a massive organic attack is coming, well, you're rife in a situation to take advantage of that. Now, even if you're not the one that carries those attacks out, you can definitely leverage them to your advantage through things like Islamophobia to drum up that patriotism you need to keep that war effort going. And so when you see things like this, my big suggestion to people is watch the response from the government and the media. It will tell you everything you need to know if this is organic or most likely a false flag. And if we look at this, something like this, where 150 officers somehow all got there within 5 minutes and the FBI reported on it 20 minutes later, yeah, these ones are usually a little suspicious. Yeah, that's a lot.
I've never seen a police response like that to anything in this country. Ever. I've never seen them on time. The FBI was reporting on it within 30 minutes. Bitch, get the f*** out of my face.
Think about something like Uvalde, right? Like it took forever the police to get there and then they still wouldn't enter the building. Like you can usually tell the ones that are organic based off the response and the ones that are probably a little fishy. And so while some people are talking about how, oh, the people talking about this are fear-mongering, well, first of all, our own government is telling us this is going to happen, so you should pay the attention when they say things out loud. But two, no, everyone should be talking about this. Everybody should be calling out the potential for false flags, because the more people that are talking about this, the more people that are noticing, less likely that the government or some other state actor or entity or foreign government is going to try to pull something like this off, because they know the public perception of it is going to immediately be, this is bullshit, we don't believe it. And then it's a completely worthless false flag because you can't leverage what you're trying to leverage, which is PSYOP public opinion change. So I hope to God we don't see anything like this and they realize like, nah, the American people aren't going to buy it this time, and we don't even have to see anything like this at all. But never count out a failing government and a failing president to do something insane to try to drum up support. So we'll find out. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we're all going to find out one way or another. And that's going to do it for this one. Catch y'all in the next video.